How's it going, guys? This is Flash. It's 3:45 p.m. Central Time, Sunday afternoon. I'll just cut right to the chase and dive right in. This is not going to be as long as my other briefings, just because we have a strong storm complex racing out of the boot hills. It'll be here in the next hour or two for a lot of communities along and west of I-65. Typically, I like to talk about these briefings a day in advance, but the way this day has gone, conditions have just ripened in the last 3-4 hours. When this day started, I thought, okay, cool. We're going to have a pretty basic summer-like pattern where you have an MCS diving out from the northwest, and we'll have a squall line, straight line damaging winds, that sort of thing. But this is looking more like a mini derecho event. You talk about all the severe weather parameters and the probability of them happening. Well, whether you're talking about damaging winds, large hail, weak tornadoes, the chance of each happening within 25 miles of a given point has increased. I don't want to say skyrocketed, but basically have ticked up a notch across the board. And there's still, risk for localized flash flooding that can't be underestimated. These are going to be a strong system of storms. You could see the SPC put out a mesoscale discussion not that long ago. The risk for damaging wind gusts increasing for all of Middle and even East Tennessee, the Cumberland Plateau. A couple spin-ups. I talked about this morning in my write-up. You can't rule out some EF0, EF1. They may not be strong or track long, but we have to respect the environmental conditions just based on the new data that has come in. And part of what happened, and you can see the radar, look at that hook, look at that bowing with that segment there. That's a classic derecho-like. I'm not going to say it's a derecho yet because I don't know. That's based upon the reports that come out from this. But you could see how winds in the center, in the core of that line, bowing out. So not all. A line is made up of clusters, and they kind of stitch together, so it looks like one big line. But not every respective cell is moving at the same speed. The ones here in the middle are moving fast, and the others are racing out ahead. And that is conducive. That's a visual indicator that there's some unstable air in advance, and even along that front that's really pumping and pushing this out, I think even quicker than expected. You can see the watch doesn't yet include the mid-state yet, but that should change shortly. In fact, actually, no, I just updated. Yes, it does now include, that graphic is old. You could see, if you scroll down here, plateau is extended. And look at that. We have a tornado warning on the board. This line is producing severe thunderstorm warnings all up and down it. There's not a lot of gaps. I haven't checked that severe weather statement over, and I don't know what county that is, if it's Benton, Carroll, Humphreys, but it's along the Tennessee River. I'll have to dig into that. So you could see the enhanced risk there. It was we started out marginal level 1 out of 5 earlier. We went up to slight at 8 a.m. this morning, and then now we're all in enhanced risk unless you live down here in Waynesboro, Lawrenceburg, towards the Alabama border. And winds are now the number one concern, which makes sense in a derecho type event. But hail is also another thing, as the warm nose aloft has eroded quicker than expected. Initially, I was thinking maybe northwest parts of Middle Tennessee would be more in a danger zone. That's, again, extended eastward. And, again, the tornado threat is not zero. I believe it was a 1 or a 2 back on March 2nd. This is not going to be a repeat of March 2nd, but I think we're going to see more widespread impact from this. Severe weather time, you could see. These are kind of broad. I think these could be fine-tuned a little bit, but, for my area, being on the line here between the light blue and the moderate blue, we're talking about something that's going to impact around dinner time for a lot of people, and then towards more the evening, even overnight hours as you get into the plateau counties. So we'll take a look at the risk parameters real quick. Again, this has changed. I took a 45-minute nap, and it's funny just how quickly weather can change. It's one reason why I love it so much. Tornado, we're now in that 2% chance. Again, not zero, but we weren't even in this. There was a big message across the screen. This very graphic that said probability under 2%. they didn't even have any risk zones defined, and now they have at least that. 30% wind. Again, we're talking about probabilities of significant weather happening within 25 miles of a given point, and hail 15. I think at one point the National Weather Service had mentioned that the concern for hail was increasing based on what they were seeing out of the Paducah CWA. But that's that. And, you know, the HRRR, the HRRR, generally regarded as one of the more reliable short-term models, hasn't been performing well with this event. So I'm hesitant to go there, but maybe it's caught on. Maybe it's, you know, picked up what it's going to do. You can't break this down regionally, so you're going to have to just find Tennessee on the screen there. We can look at what is going to happen in terms of just, you know, and we're so close, it doesn't even really make sense to look at the supercell composite or the SIG-TOR. I did look at those graphics this morning, and they did not look that impressive. You got to go to a more recent graphic here. But you can see there's some coloration there. And I'm not going to dive into the specifics, I promise you that, but you can see how, you know, we have coloration, which is something you don't want to see when you're looking at supercell compositors or SIG-TOR. I know, you know, amateurs, we tend to go there. I mean, but just know that, talk about warm pools aloft. I'm not going to tell you how far aloft, but, you know, you need the greater the temperature difference between the ground and the upper levels of the atmosphere, that vertical column of air, a given column of air, like just pick one, like right above your head, and you increase that gradient, the temperature difference in that column, you get steeper lapse rates, and that increases the vertical acceleration of your air parcel rising. And, you know, severe weather, you know, a lot of parameters are centered on how quickly is air converging at the surface, rising vertically, and then diverging aloft. A lot of parameters are geared around that, and that's, you know, we talk about lapse rates, we talk about what the mid-level is doing, dry air, you know, evaporative cooling, you know, that's one thing that I look for. You know, dry level intrusion in the mid-levels, evaporative cooling takes place. If you don't know what evaporative cooling is, just think about how when you step out of a shower, you feel you're freezing, you're shivering because of what's happening. The water's starting to automatically evaporate off your body. That happens in the air. And, you know, that, you know, lapse rates. A lot of it comes down to lapse rates and the temperature difference. And then you not only have a temperature differential in an air column, but also the wind shear, two components to wind shear, directional and the speed of the wind, the magnitude of the wind. So usually you don't get that with a Boeing line segment. Usually winds coming all going in the same direction. You don't get that difference, that gradient, but sometimes you could get speed. You know, you can, like you saw the Boeing segment of that line, sometimes even the direction, it's all coming from the same direction, but the speeds are different. That's enough to spin up these weak tornadoes embedded in the line. So take a quick look here. You could see, you know, if you see a red or anything over a 1 is significant, I could see some cells, you know, in the next couple hours over southern Kentucky. Even down in southwest Tennessee, this is new data that's coming. Let me see if you go back down to 19C. I'm not going to worry about GFS and NAM and all that. I'm just looking for trends, patterns in the next couple hours. And for some reason, I'm not getting this to update, so I apologize. I'm not sure what's up with Pivotal Weather today, but basically the bottom line, and I'm not sure why these maps aren't updating. I'll have to check and see because nothing looks to be shifting here. But that's the main thing, is just wanting to keep you informed and just know that this is coming. Even if it weakens a little bit, it's still something that is going to produce winds 30, 40, in most areas, 40, 50, I imagine, in a select few, and then 58. Once you get to that threshold, you're in severe level wind territory, and that can knock over some small trees. If you're outside, you know, consider tying up, you know, loose ends, you know, anything that could be flying projectiles, you know, make sure that you put them inside somewhere, your garage, get your car in there, get your tools in there. You know, I'm sure some of you have, you know, children, young children with toys, get their valuables inside, your pet inside, obviously. Just clean ship, and we'll get through this thing together. So, all right, guys. Hope you guys have a wonderful rest of the day, and stay storm alert. Catch you on the fry. Peace.
All right, the storm is here, everyone. This mini Derecho event is racing across the state as we speak, knocking on the doorstep here. And as you guys know by now, the reason why I try and catch these live is because it normally hits our house in White Bluff, that's eastern Dixon County, before most of you guys watching in Nashville, Metro, Brentwood, Franklin. No, Caden, we are not. Caden's like wondering if we're going to get any tornadoes. I'm going to step outside real quick. See some of the coloration brightening underneath that lead front. This storm has overperformed so far. I just put out a briefing, and that's not going to give a whole lot of people heads up in case you haven't been paying attention to the weather today. It was a very nice day, and everything has come together for this line to hold together. You can see the debris flying in the air. Wow. Are you guys seeing this? Look at all the debris flying in the air. This is intense. The chairs are starting to blow a little bit. Caden thinks there's a tornado. It's not. But you can see just how... Woo! Yeah, guys, you don't want to take this seriously here. Sorry, you do want to take it seriously. You don't want to take it lightly is what I meant to say. Sideways rain, horizontal rain. Again, 40 to 50 mile per hour winds, not uncommon. Once you get to 58 miles per hour, that's when you cross into severe level criteria. Woo. You can actually see the wind blowing here. Small trees, weak trees, new trees, I'm concerned about them holding up in this line. Mini derechos are not to be underestimated. Straight line damaging winds. I felt a few small hail pellets on my shoulder. Nothing too significant on the hail front yet, but now we're starting to get more rain here. You can see just how very bright wind here, or intense wind I should say. Wow. All right, I'm gonna go on the front. All right, we're gonna go out and watch things from this end. Yeah, all right, you see what's going on. Holy smokes, guys. Look how fast this wind is going. I mean, it's like a whiteout. So far the debris is more brush and limbs. I see some limbs, like small limbs down it, but you can hardly see through the clouds here that are just sheets of rain coming down the street. Just sheets of it. Not to mention the waterfall coming from the roof here. There's some rumbles. Not a whole lot of lightning, a few flashes leading up to this, but of course on cue. If anyone is driving right now, I suggest you just pull over, let this pass. It will be 15-20 minutes of intense action. This is not something you want to drive through. Small vehicles, they'll definitely be swaying in the wind. Or sorry, swaying, just rocking if you're, just depending on the car you drive. Weak spin-up tornadoes are possible. With these mini Derecho events, you have intense straight-line damaging winds, usually coming in the same direction, moving in the same direction, but differences in speed. The center of a Derecho bow segment line, not every individual cluster or group of cells is moving the same speed, so you could get a difference in a speed differential within the line, and that could be enough to cause those small spin-ups. Ryan, I'm glad you are on. I must admit, at 8 o'clock this morning, even when NOAA upgraded our risk from a marginal to a slight, that's a level 1 of 5 to level 2 of 5, I was skeptical, and then they went to enhanced. It's not every day you see a storm complex promote the threat level by 2 categories, from marginal to slight to enhanced. And this is the day, if you turned on the weather at 7 in the morning, you probably thought this wasn't going to be anything, and surprise. So that's why it's like any quote you've heard about the weather constantly changing couldn't be more. No, somebody, you're not going to see a tornado. Caden wants to see a tornado. He hasn't yet learned how devastating they can be. And I've seen him EF5 tornado pics. Damage pics, I mean. I think it's winding down here. It probably is going to be typical of what a lot of you see. Twigs, brush, limbs down, but nothing too absurd from my vantage point. I might lose you depending on what the storm sights to do, and the power kind of flickered there. Yeah, there's going to be quite a bit of, in terms of damage reports, Ryan, there's going to be multiple reports that come out. It'll be interesting to see what SPC puts out in their report. But, all right, I'm going to cut this off for now. Thanks, guys, for watching. Peace.